Hey everybody, it's Charlie. New Flash costume, so let's go crazy about this. You may have noticed a little while ago, Grant Gustin said it's about time Barry gets a new costume, just teasing the idea that he would get some new version of his Flash costume. You've actually already seen him in a bunch of different versions of the costume since the show started, so I'll explain what's going on with this, all the coolest versions of the costume from the TV show, in the comics, in the stuff that they might be able to do in the future. Just one in a long line of really awesome Super Bowl weekend trailers and teasers that are dropping. I'm doing a new round of the Flash Ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment about the Flash on this video. Be sure to click that bell to enable alerts so you don't miss anything. So what's going on? The actor who played Wally West was teasing that he was getting a new costume a while ago. So every season, even within each season, they tweak the costume just a little bit, even if you can't visibly tell. There's actually a couple different versions that he wears depending on the types of scenes that they film. There's one version he wears when the mask is fully on. It's a harder version so it doesn't move around when he turns his head. But then when he's filming other scenes with the cowl off, when he's just walking around with it pulled off, it's a different version that's a little bit softer, that sort of folds on itself. The hard version is almost like a leather helmet. But since season 1, there's been a couple different versions of Barry's costume so far. The first version was in the pilot. It was this really hard costume. It gave Grant Gustin these crazy headaches, so they had to make a better version of the first version of the suit. So outwardly it looked the same, but it was a lot more modular. There were different pieces. And always, you actually saw this picture of him from behind the scenes, he always doesn't wear the emblem until he walks on set. A lot of people saw this, and because of the Eddie episode, they're like, oh, maybe it's going to be a flashback. It'll be the old version of the emblem. But even if that's true, he still walks around when he's in his Flash costume without the emblem on. They don't attach it till they get ready to do scenes because he zips the suit up the front. It's almost like a jacket now. So over the course of season 1 and season 2, the suit itself has gotten a lot more comfortable for him to wear. So when it came time to make Wally's suit, they kind of did the same thing. So I'm guessing the suit that we saw him in at the beginning of the season, the Wally suit, is actually changing just to get a little more comfortable. You see that Wally has a slightly different haircut in the behind the scenes pictures, so I think it'll look a little bit cooler, but you won't be able to tell the difference unless you're really paying attention closely. It's the same basic suit. The biggest color change was at the end of Flash season 1.
Guys, when I fought the Reverse Flash at Christmas, he said that we'd be fighting for centuries.
Wait, you can't really think that this is from the future.
That would mean Dr. Wells, whoever he is also
From the future.
I have to say, I'm really digging the brighter red suit. And the white on the symbol? That's dope. Wait a second. Suppose we now change the color on your suit. Will it be because we got the idea from this picture? That would mean we're living in a causal nexus. Wow, this is so trippy, like Marty and the Polaroid trippy.
Cisco asked the burning question, do we make that white emblem because we saw it in the future, or were we always destined to make it? Come to season 2, they actually make the white emblem, and then they start making upgrades to the actual tech of the suit. He fights Captain Cold, they have a version of the emblem that will heat up, so Cisco tweaks that technology based on the types of bosses that Barry goes up against. So there have been all kinds of teasers about future versions of the costume. There have been many different versions in the comics, so the idea is that we'll eventually see a future version of Barry in a crazier, more hardcore version of the suit. Now, I'm not talking about Flash movie suit like the Injustice looking version of the suit. I'm talking about a Barry that's more full of Speed Force, maybe the blue version of the costume or something close to it, just to let us know that he has become this crazy being. So we might not actually get to see that this season, but we might get teasers for it later on. I'm not expecting him to wear anything but the red version of the costume on most of the show. The closest WTF color change that I actually think that we'll see this season is a future vision of Wally wearing the red costume in a time when Barry has died and gone away and he's become the main version of the Flash. I think on one of the TV shows, we'll see a future vision of that, but on the main show, it will always be Barry and Wally in their respective costumes. So just remember that Grant Gustin is the main actor on The Flash. They're not going to kill him off. He's not going to go away. He'll still be there. They signed 7-year contracts, but there might be episodes when he gets stuck somewhere and Wally has to step up. The Gorilla City episode is coming. There'll be a really cool Wally-Iris team-up while everybody else is dealing with the Gorilla City stuff. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. The new version of the cowl that he's having made right here is probably just a more hardcore version of his red costume. So, in the comics, you may have seen the blue costume. That belongs to the New 52 future version of Barry Allen from 20 years in the future, from this post-apocalyptic timeline where all this craziness has happened. Wally has died. He hasn't been able to save all the ones that he's loved, and he blames himself for creating all these cracks in the Speed Force. So the only solution he can come up with is to go back and kill himself in the past. So the New 52 Flash costume looked a little bit different, a little bit shinier. I wasn't a big fan of it. The blue costume was really cool though. There was another blue costume during the War of Light that Barry wore when he was a Blue Lantern. That was a more cloth-looking version, slightly less hardcore, but still very cool because he had the lantern ring. That's something that we can dream about, but they'll probably never be able to do on the TV shows. The War of Light, where everybody gets lantern rings. The most hardcore version of the Flash costume that we could ever possibly see is the God of Death Speedster. So Barry Allen, during Darkseid War in the comics, gets merged with the Black Racer by the Anti-Monitor, and he becomes the new God of Death. So it drives him a little mad. Batman became the God of Knowledge, sitting on the Mobius chair. They all went a little nuts. All the Justice League members went a little crazy. The fun thing about that is that the TV show can always play with ideas like that. Like Savitar almost looks like a version of that Flash, just this crazy God of Speed, God of Death. But one of the reasons why I think that the Flash TV show won't actually put Barry in one of those costumes is mostly because it's a little too crazy for people that don't read comics and just tune in week to week without really understanding what's happening. So if he showed up one day in the God of Death costume, people would be like, I don't understand what's happening. Where's the Flash? The Flash is in a red costume. Which I know sounds infuriating because if you read comics, you want to see the really cool comic book stuff. So they always try to find really fun ways to make those Easter eggs or show you visions of that in the future, but then at the end of the day, take things back to normal so that when they show up in the next episode, everybody's back to square one. So whatever ends up happening at the end of this season, when we pick up next season, there'll be slightly different versions of the costume. Physically, they'll be a little more comfortable, but they'll still be the yellow and red costumes. And the other, smaller reason for them making a bunch of different versions of the costume during the season is because they trash a lot of them. So every once in a while, they do have to make a new one. But let me know, what is your favorite version of the Flash costume, and which one do you hope makes it onto the show? I know everybody wants to see a version of the blue costume. I'm guessing that you probably read the New 52 run and just saw that really hardcore Barry Allen. It does look really cool, and Barry Allen is slowly filling himself and Wally with Speed Force, so we might get White Lightning Barry and White Lightning Wally pretty soon. But if you're ever frustrated by the TV show, just remember that they try to balance things so that they can't get too powerful, otherwise there's no threats. So there's always some way, if they get really powerful, for them to take it back at the end of the day. Like Barry got super powerful with the tachyons, then the surprise twist is that Zoom did something that Barry couldn't prevent using his speed, so he ended up having to give it to him, going back to square one. So it'll be interesting to see how they solve the problem of Savitar without making Barry or Wally overpowered going into season 4. But don't forget, I'm doing special giveaways for the Super Bowl trailers, so I'll add links for that at the end of this. It's going to be great. It's going to be crazy this weekend. There's even some Stranger Things Season 2 that's supposed to drop tomorrow, so I'll try to do as many of those videos as I can. While you wait for that to post, you can click here for the new Logan trailer, and you can click here for this week's Flash. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody, let's high five, and I'll see you in the next video.